I'm Tatum Everett inside TCO Studios with a special guest, Megan Olivi with Fox Sports. You're going to be on the sideline for this big Lions-Vikings game. We talked a little bit before you came on here. You spoke to the Lions already this week. What was the temperature of that coaching staff, those players? Because this isn't your normal Lions team we're used to seeing.
I think you just put it perfectly, and I think that's sort of the messaging. When we spoke to Aaron Glenn, he was saying, I don't want this defense to be what people think of when they think Detroit Lions defense, which has really been sort of a more joking manner for a long time. I think, it's relatively early in the season, but I think the positivity is so high, especially even compared to last year where they got things going and they had Dan Campbell in the building and really trying to make these changes for the better. So I think momentum is certainly rolling in their favor right now. I think that they all feel very positive about what could happen. And they truly felt like in the meetings that we had, they felt like they could win this division, that they are really out there to compete and not just compete and have a good showing for the season, but to win the NFC North.
It was a disappointing loss for the Vikings, on the other hand, against the Eagles on Monday night. It's a rare occasion, week 3, that you've got two teams who've played the same team. So the tape is there to know exactly what to do. Both losses, because the Eagles are out here looking really good. Did they talk at all, or what did they say maybe about what they've seen from a Vikings team against the same style of play that they played in the Eagles?
Yeah, they certainly talked about it, but I don't think that they're dwelling too much upon that common opponent and how they played. I think certainly they believe, hey, the Vikings are going to come out here and make all the changes that they need to make. I think they are sort of looking at it, hey, they had such a good game against the Packers. That's the team we need to be prepared for, as opposed to that Eagles game. But I do think there's a lot of confidence that comes from, hey, we had these similar opponents. It was down to the wire for us. Just a couple of things. If we would have cleaned up, we would have won against the Eagles, whereas that wasn't necessarily the case for Monday Night Football for the Vikings outing. However, I think that also adds a motivation then, of course, for this Minnesota team to say this isn't going to be 2 weeks in a row, and we've got to make sure that we don't have a showing like that once again.
That's funny you say that, because I was going to ask you with a Detroit twist. Eminem's obviously from Detroit. Will the real Vikings please stand up, just to nod to that? Because, we weren't expecting to see such a turn of events from week 1 to week 2. Where do you think this Vikings team is?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think week 1, everyone was like, oh my gosh, the people who said they're going to win the division are right, and I think that's certainly still there. I think we always get caught up in what happens in that particular game. And while that's the most important game, whatever is next, I think it's only week 3, and there's a lot of things that have to be settled into. There's a new coaching, new play calling. And I do think seeing Dalvin Cook get the ball a little bit more is going to be important. I think obviously teams are going to know Justin Jefferson is a hot target. He's talented. So they're going to put defenders on him. And I think the way the team pivots because of that, the way the players are able to pivot because of that, and not just rely on, hey, let's go back to the well a million times and just see how can we vary this attack? How can we vary our weapons? I think that's what the Vikings are going to do, or at least are looking to do come Sunday.
What other storyline, maybe more on the defensive side of things, are you following being on the sidelines of this game?
It's a good question. I'm actually really interested in this Aiden Hutchinson matchup for the Vikings, because although he is playing, for the Lions, I do think that he could be a difference maker, and we're not sure if he's going to play yet.
Right.
And I think we saw him have 3 sacks last week for the Lions, and obviously he played a big game. He's a young kid. There's a lot of hype behind him. But can he have that type of impact on Sunday against this veteran Vikings team, or is he even going to be able to play and be that difference maker that he wants to be? So for me, I do think that's such an interesting storyline to follow, not just because of what he was able to do, but because he is already, kind of working through an injury. He didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday, so we're just going to see, what does Sunday have for him.
Yeah, Sunday is going to be a big one. It's funny, again, week 3, you don't think about these games meaning as much as they do. What do you want to, or when you have your meetings later today with this Vikings team about the importance of Sunday, what is your main line of questioning? What are you wanting to find out from them?
Yeah, I'm really curious. Well, I guess it's twofold. I'm really curious, what does this division look like in their minds, and where do they really settle? I think every team's going to say, I think we should win this division, or I think we can win this division. But what does that also mean for then teams like the Lions and the Packers? Certainly they've already faced the Packers, but where then do the rest of the teams fit? Because I think that's interesting. when you know how well you can compete within your own division, what does that say about the rest of the league for you? And then certainly, how do you get momentum going again? That's, for me, something really big. You had it in such waves after week one. And how do you get that going again? I think motivation can be having a chip on your shoulder, and it can be as easy as that. Hey, it's bitter and we don't want it to be like it was before. But how do you take that and turn it into a positive thing? Because oftentimes when we see a negative motivation, that can sometimes be a downturn for what the end outcome is. And so I'm really interested to see where they believe they fit in the division, but also where do they have these other teams stacking up, and how do you continue to get motivation in the right way and keep it going through the rest of the season?
Yeah, they talk about responding to the adversity, and maybe this being the first adversity they face as a staff together, staff and team. So should be lots of fun. I'm really glad that we rolled out the cold weather carpet for you as you came in today. I was like, man, it's going to be, hopefully they close the doors in the stadium on Sunday is all I'm saying.
It was 97 degrees when I left my house, so a little different than being here in Minneapolis.
Well, thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to have you guys on the call this week. The game is on Fox, Lions, Vikings. Check out Megan Olivi on the sidelines, and Skol, I guess.
Yeah, let's go.